Is one of a series of workshops that the City of Tempe has hosted here at our new City Hall. And we felt that in a growing community like ours and the talent pool that is found within our community, we wanted to give opportunities for folks that have a great idea, that might not know what to do next with it, or they've started a business and they just need that additional information or additional push to bring it to the next phase, which might be a storefront. And that's really kind of the crux of the meeting today, is we want to discuss with you, and again, this is a workshop format, so questions are encouraged. Our presenters are experts in their industry, and I'll be introducing them here in a minute. But first, I want to talk to you all about the City of Fate. And so by way of introduction, my name is Justin Weiss. I am the Assistant City Manager for the community. And a lot of folks, if you have ever seen Parks and Rec, if you've seen that television show, it's a little bit like that, but not really. But if you have any reference to city government, so kind of like Chris Traeger, you know, the guy that's the city manager. Well, I'm the assistant city manager, so I oversee half the city, and part of my responsibility is economic and community development. And what that means is, from start to finish, I help folks that are in the conceptual phases of their businesses to relocation and expansion, and everything in between, from permitting and the zoning and all those processes. I kind of oversee that. So it's kind of nice in that we are a flexible, a boutique shop, if you will. You talk about different engineering firms that have thousands of employees. Well, we're not that at all. We're much more a smaller organization, which means we're that much more nimble, and we can cater our services to your needs, which is a great thing. So today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the City of Fate, and I have to warn you, is that when I start talking about Fate, I get really excited, and I might go on, and you might not hear anything else from these other guys. So I promise not to do that. I'm going to keep it within about 5 to 10 minutes, okay? So hold me true to that. But if I get really excited and you guys want to ask questions about it, we can do that after, during the Q&A period, okay? So, City of Fate, centrally located in Rockwall County. Rockwall County is the smallest county geographically in the state of Texas. It's one of the fastest growing counties in the state of Texas, and it's also one of the wealthiest counties in the state of Texas. And Fate is uniquely positioned in that we are right in the heart of Rockwall County, okay? We've got Rockwall to the west of us, Roy City to the east of us, and we have this unique opportunity where we have hundreds and hundreds of acres of undeveloped commercial land ripe for the picking, really. And Fate, again, is one of the fastest growing cities, not only in the county, but in the state of Texas. So I kind of want to talk about our demographic. Why are folks moving out here? What's happening? This is a slide that just demonstrates the type of people that live in our community, highly educated and very affluent. And it's predominantly a younger demographic. I think our median age right now is around 34. So you see a lot of young families, young professionals that are wanting to move into some great school districts. We're served by 2 excellent school districts, Rockwall ISD and Roy City ISD. We have great partnerships with both of them. And that's what folks are looking for, is this area to raise a family. We talked a little bit about income. So for those of you that are business owners or wanting to expand your business, you're looking for disposable income, right? You want folks to shop or use your services. And in this area, we have, according to all of our research and the reports, is a lot of disposable income. We are building at an incredible pace. So, rewind to the year 2000. And if you can believe this, how many of you live in Rockwall County, just by a show of hands? In Rockwall County? Okay, the majority of you. If you've lived here for more than 10, 15 years, you've seen this firsthand, but let me just kind of paint a picture, because it's interesting when you go 20 years and then you kind of look back behind you, what just happened to us, right? In the year 2000, the City of Fate was approximately a population of 600. Okay? In the year 2010, it was about 6,000. And today, we are pushing well over 16,000. So if you do the math on that, that's like a growth rate of, 1,400%? All of you mathematicians out there, it's an insane rate of growth. And what we're seeing, and in this slide, what I'm trying to portray is that the City of Fate issued 649 permits in 2017. That's more homes than Rockwall and Roy City combined. So when you think of, is this a green area, or where would be a good investment? Well, when you think of Rockwall County and you think of the growth that we're experiencing, where's that growth happening? It's happening right here in Fate, to the tune of more than the 2 neighboring cities combined. Okay, that's like really exciting. Like when I tell business prospects, that's like, oh my goodness. And is this trend going to continue? Well, yes, it is, because we have a ton of already permitted lots, if you will, in all of these existing subdivisions. And I'll go into a little bit of detail of each of these. So we have thousands of entitled lots in the city of Fayette, which means for every new home that's being built, and I don't know how that, you could get a 0.2 of a person, but they say it's between like 3.2 and 3.7 people per household. Of course, it's on average, you can't have a 0.2 of a person. So for every new home that we're building, we're adding a ton of people, and that equates to between 1,000 and 2,000 people annually to the city of Fayette based on our current growth rate. And we believe, just based on the existing stock, that we have enough absorption for the next 7 to 10 years if we continue at this rate, right? So build-out population is one of the questions that I get asked. Based on our current future land use plan, it is estimated to be about 55,000. So little old Fayette in the year 2600 on its way to 55,000 in the next 10 to 20 years. Pretty crazy, right? Exciting. Wood Creek, we're actually kind of nestled here in our largest master plan subdivision. This is a 5,000, give or take, home master plan community, and they have still several thousand homes left to build out, even as big as it currently is. Williamsburg, this is on the south side of 30, so when you think of business location, where should I locate? Well, you've got growth happening pretty much all around you. And of course, when you look into location, well, I'll talk a little bit about downtown in a second, but you kind of want to be centrally located so that you can have access to the growth in all of these areas. Montara is another subdivision. Now, I didn't even count, I don't think I counted this in our projections, but it's between the 1,200 and 1,500 home master plan community. And this is just going to be northwest of Wood Creek. And we're actively negotiating with the developer right now for that new subdivision. Chamberlain Crossing, just to give an idea of how fast things are building out, I believe they came and we finalized the agreement in 2013. They anticipated like a 10 to 15 year build out. They're in what, year 5, year 7, and they're almost done. And that was about 417 homes that they built, in that period of time. And then this is a slide that kind of, let me get you oriented. So FM 551 and I-30, yay, we've got a signal there. How many of you went through the signal today? You better not have ran that red light. It's not blinking, okay? Solid red means stop. It's funny because this just happened on Monday, and we're having to do some additional enforcement over there because we've become all accustomed to stop and go at that intersection, but now it's a real signal. So Christmas came early, we got the red and green, right? It's happening. So that's the intersection, and if you can see my cursor here, it's that intersection I-30 and 551. What is being displayed here is a concept plan for the commercial growth along that corridor. So in order for the city of Fayette to be successful, what we're doing is we have all these entitled neighborhoods that are happening, and we're going to continue to build those out, but now we're concentrating the density, commercial traffic, and all of that in our core, starting with our downtown and having that kind of bleed into the commercial corridor, which is that four corners there at 551 and I-30. So this is going to be a live, work, play type of development, high quality, that generates, it's not going to be anywhere USA. Fayette is going to be a destination. We believe in the vision that we have set forth, and we have all the design criteria and development partners, which we're working on right now to make that actually happen. This is just an idea of kind of the style and type of development that you might see along those commercial corridors. In fact, this is the elevation for a multifamily complex that is already permitted, or not permitted, but is permissible through the Williamsburg development plan. So when you think of businesses, you want to be where the people are, and if you can concentrate some of that density, that provides for additional opportunities for businesses. And this is what I'm really excited to tell you about today is our downtown Fayette redevelopment project. The city has committed over $4 million to the redevelopment of downtown, and that's going to include new roads, widened sidewalks, the dropping of utilities, replacement of utilities, a new road that's going in downtown. And then what you're seeing here is an actual elevation or a rendering of a 3-story mixed-use building that is going in downtown, and they're doing work on it today. They're doing site work, soil injections to get the conditions ready for a huge concrete slab, of course, to support the weight of that 3-story building. So as you can see, we're creating new commercial space within our downtown area. That would be for retail and restaurant. That restaurant there will have a rooftop patio. And there's several more projects just like this, which again increases kind of the square footage that will be available for businesses that want to open up in our downtown. And this is another rendering, just a quick sketch that gives an idea of the concept plan that went into the design of the redevelopment of downtown Fayette, Maine. You can see new roads, ample parking, There's always going to be a parking problem. It doesn't matter if you overpark and have 5-story parking decks. Everybody's going to think there's a parking problem. But we're trying to address it as quickly and efficiently as possible by maximizing the permissible parking spaces there in downtown to begin with. So that kind of concludes my section of it. Hopefully you can see, and because you've lived here and even driving through here, you see the opportunity that is in the City of Fate. And what we're trying to do is recruit unique businesses, folks that are from our community and that will give back to the community. The community wants to support its own. And so today, it's my pleasure to introduce two of our speakers. And they're each going to take about 25 to 30 minutes and talk specifically about how do you go from concept to, if you already have an existing business, and how do you take it to the next level. So our first speaker is Steve Shalosky. Did I say that all right? Yep. And he represents the Collin SBDC. Now, the Collin, and that stands for the Collin Small Business Development Center. It's actually located in Plano, and they serve Rockwell County. And it's a partnership between the U.S. Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, and Collin College. Through this partnership, one-on-one strategic business consulting, I want you to pay real particular attention to this. One-on-one strategic business consulting is provided at no cost. Okay, so when you talk about small businesses needing, there's folks out there that will charge you to do consulting services. This is at no cost. Okay, this is incredible, and this is for our residents here in Rockwell County, especially here in Fate. Low and no fee workshops. So today, free workshop. They come out here to provide information at no cost to you on topics that are essential to business success. And clients may request market, financial, and industry research through IBIS World, BizMiner, and Reference USA databases. So these are like big-time products that usually small businesses or entrepreneurs would not have access to, that they offer as part of their suite of services. So when you're trying to make a good business decision, they've got some information. And of course, with the city, oftentimes what we're finding is because we're such a fast-growing community, the statistics that are readily available are inaccurate, to be quite frank, because they cannot keep up with us. We can hardly keep up with ourselves. So it's this dynamic where, yes, you want to look at those things, but come and talk to the community where you're wanting to invest with an economic developer, and we can give you real-time data and show you exactly what's going on, take you a drive around the community so you can see firsthand what's happening in our community. And a little bit about Steve. He's been a business advisor with Collin SBDC since August of 2016. And prior to coming to Collin College, he was an entrepreneur and small business owner. So you're talking not to just kind of folks that talk about business, but have actually ran a business and can relate and tell you all the ins and outs and the pitfalls, and here's what you really need to consider. Okay, that's really the value there. He's also has over 12 years of corporate marketing experience at Fortune 500 companies like IBM, Dell, Abbott Laboratories, and Dial. While he can advise on small business subjects, his specific expertise is in U.S. brand marketing strategy. So, man, I've got this great idea, but how do I take it to market? He's your guy, right? He's going to help you through that marketing strategy and plan. Consumer products and retail marketing strategy and tactical development. He holds an MBA from the W.P. Carey School of Business at Arizona State University in Tempe, Arizona. So without further ado, let's turn the time over to Steve and welcome him here today.
Okay, so before I get started on my presentation, I wanted to just give you a little orientation to the SBDC, and Justin already kind of went through a little bit of that. I think I hit the down arrow for that. But the SBA years ago recognized that many small businesses go out of business pretty quickly, and so they wanted to lend a hand, and they got together and they said, okay, well, let's see if they got together with the states, and they said, let's see if we can put some sort of program together to help small business. And so they came up with this Small Business Development Center concept. And together with the local colleges or universities in that particular county, they developed the Small Business Development Center. What we do there is simply we provide a lot of business advice. They hire usually ex-entrepreneurs, ex-bankers, that can assist you in the areas of small business. Anything from marketing to finance, anything you can think of, soup to nuts, basically. In addition to the advice, we also have access to the databases. As Justin had mentioned earlier, IBIS World is one of them, BizMiner, BizComps, you name it. We've got a lot of great databases. And then it'll help you with your strategic marketing plan, because if you're already in business, you don't need a business plan anymore, you need a strategic marketing plan. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. The last thing that we provide is non-fee classes. And our classes aren't like your typical college class, which goes 4 or 5 different classes, Tuesdays and Thursdays for a couple hours. They're 2 hours in length. They're held at our campus, our courtyard campus, which is at basically Bush and Preston. They're 2 hours in length. That includes Q&A at the end. We have experts that come in, attorneys that come in and teach legal aspects of starting and running a business, and that includes hiring employees. We have accountants that come in and talk about taxation and accounting for small business. I teach a marketing class there. We have actual experts in government contracting that come in and talk about the government contracting landscape and the certification process. So lots of great classes available to you at no charge. So you can sign up online, and there's a link. Actually, I have this presentation in that little baggie of goodies. So if you want to follow along or make notes or whatever, but there is a link to our website, and we'll take you right to that location for the classes. If you ever wanted to sign up, I know it's a long way from Fate, and there may be a time in the near future, given the growth of Fate, that we would be coming out here and giving classes. We talked about that a lot in some of our other campuses in and around Collin. Trouble is, we try to fill that with as many people as we can, so we want to make sure that we have enough people to come out here and give a class like that. But anyway, it may happen in the near future. There's SBDCs all over the country, so if you move and let's say you move to a completely different state, there's going to be an SBDC resource for you somewhere. So that's the good news. We are part of a larger network, so we actually have specialists that are down in our Dallas office that provide us with the government contracting and international. So if you have some trade issues or whatever, we have some specialists that could help you with that. I've already gone into that, and here's your link to our SBDC website. There's also links to other resources. The SBA has a pretty robust website, talks about all their lending, talks about other programs that they have. They have some free online classes and templates and all kinds of cool stuff that's on there, so check them out. A lot of their stuff is free of charge as well. And then I know that Collin College has, I believe they have a campus out here now or somewhere in Rockwall. They don't have a continuing education out here yet. But continuing education is a great way to get knowledge in something without all of the burden of being in a class. You have to go through the registration process and provide your transcripts and all this other BS stuff when you're taking a regular college course. But in these CE classes, you just basically pay, register for the class, and you gain knowledge, practical knowledge. It's not theoretical. They're going to talk about stuff like QuickBooks if you want to learn QuickBooks. They're going to talk about stuff like SEO if you want to do your own SEO. They have classes and all kinds of stuff. So a great resource, and I know it's kind of far from here. Again, it's back at our own campus. But if you wanted to learn something and you need a classroom setting, online isn't for you, then that's the way to go. Get over there, go. They have a lot of evening classes, and they know that there's CE classes are generally geared towards professionals, so the classes are usually in the evenings to make it convenient for you. But accounting, they have bookkeeping, they have digital marketing, they've got all kinds of stuff there, so you can gain some knowledge. Okay, let's get into why open a storefront. Well, believe it or not, I know that the news is always negative. It always seems that way. And it always seems that, and lately it seems that they've been focused on store closures. How digital marketing and online marketing is just taken off and everybody's abandoned the brick and mortar. Well, that's simply not true. It's just that the weak are getting eaten up. The weak as far as they've been poor marketers for years, they've been poor merchandisers, they've managed their stores improperly. they've been purchased. So there's a lot of reasons why these companies are closing their brick and mortars down. It's not all about digital. Many successful retailers today, and there's some that you may recognize up there, Duluth Trading is one of them. It's a fast-growing online retailer. They have physical brick and mortar locations now. They've recognized that shoppers like it, and this goes to my next points on this slide. There was a TechCrunch survey in 2014. 78% of customers prefer to shop in store, and they spend 6 times as much as those in digital. If you think about it, it's very intuitive, right? You go out to Amazon, and you're focused on purchasing one thing that you've looked at, one thing that you may have seen in another store, and then you want to buy it for cheap. So you go on Amazon, you take a look at it, you go on whatever the digital site that you're on, and you buy that one item. You're not necessarily shopping around. Now, some of you may shop around there, but it's not the same as picking up that sensory, that multi-sensory experience that you would have in a regular store. Feeling the material, smelling whatever it is, a candle, touching it, picking it up, feeling the texture. There's a lot to that sensory perception there. So, and customers want that. Also, these online retailers want a place to ship stuff out. They want a spot to, okay, this is where we're going to set up shop so that I can ship stuff off. I can store my stuff. I can't put it in my garage anymore. I got to have a place to put it. And why not open up a storefront at the same time? I can merchandise my stuff, but in the back I can have an operation where I can ship stuff out to people. And then customer service. A perfect example would be Nordstrom's. They've got a very robust online experience, but if you take a look, what makes them very special is their return policy. You just drop your stuff off that you bought online to their retail store, they'll take care of it for you. So there's a lot of convenience to that, and retailers are recognizing that. It's not just about digital. So here are the store closings for 2018. We hear a lot about Sears and JCPenney's and all of that kind of stuff. And I think JCPenney's to a large part because they're around here in Dallas. Their corporate headquarters is here, so we hear about layoffs and that sort of thing. But they only closed 7 stores. It's not like they closed 500 stores or 700 like Toys R Us. But Toys R Us, if you take a look at this, and the next slide, I'll tell you why I think they failed. But Toys R Us, 735, Rite Aid, 600, Subway, 500. Rite Aid was purchased by Walgreens, so that's why a lot of those locations went out. Teavana, great tea retailer, was purchased by Starbucks, so that's why all of their stores went out. Children's Place, I don't know much about that retailer. It's a clothing retailer. Bon-Ton, which is I think more clothing retail. Ann Taylor, Dress Barn, Lane Bryant, there's 650 closed down. Best Buy, we've heard a lot about Best Buy. Gap, Banana Republic, and I'll talk about that here in a couple seconds. And the Mattress Firm 175. So there's a top 10. Lots of store closures. 7,000 store closures in 2018. It seems a lot, but the majority of it's packed in these top 10. If you look at these 8 reasons for why many of these closed, 6 out of 8, or 75%, are related to marketing. The first one, failure to embrace online retailing. Toys R Us, Best Buy, perfect examples. They were so late in the game, and by then they had already been surpassed by Amazon and some of the other digital online retailers. So they were just slow. They were too slow, and that's a strategy problem. Failure to understand the competition. Well, Toys R Us. How could they not see that online retailers were a part of their competition? What about Subway, or overexpanding, or even Best Buy for not understanding their competition? Again, online, digital. Failure to understand consumer trends. Every one of those could, you could throw a lot of them in there, but Toys R Us, Essentia, here's Essentia is all those Dress Barn and some of those other places. Well, perhaps they were focused on their consumer and a young consumer, but the young consumer tastes change, and they failed to adjust to that. They kept the same old stuff in there, and they merchandised it the same way, and it got stale, and they lost out. Purchased by a competitor, which is not a marketing deal, but they forced the closure. I mean, it's operations. That's the way it works. Failure to understand the consumer, you throw a bunch of them in there, but those, and Abercrombie & Fitch is the last one on there. Poor in-store merchandising. I mean, I don't know how many of you have shopped in Sears, but that is the most god-awful merchandising experience I've ever seen in my life. And they have done it for so many years, I don't even know what to say. And then they go and they sell off their most valuable brands. I don't know. Anyway, lack of enough marketing. Mattress Firm. I mean, how many people have seen the Lisa mattress commercials on TV? Lisa and some of those other online mattress places that ship directly. What's the other one?
Purple.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 of them that are actively marketing. Where's Mattress Firm? Where are some of these other mattress companies that are going out of business? They're not marketing. They're not advertising. Not enough, anyway. And operational planning issues. Macy's, Toys R Us, Best Buy. There's some things that they're doing. Macy's has a great merchandising. They are truly amazing, and they're getting with the online retailing. They're just doing smart business decision making. They are closing non-profitable stores, and that's what they have to do to survive. It's not, one day I'm going to wake up and close 735 stores like Toys R Us did. They're being proactive. That's smart business. Okay, so before you decide, so what I'm trying to say is that there's a way around this that, yes, brick and mortars do work, okay? It's just that only the strong survive, and it's always been like that. It's not about, everything's about digital marketing today. Brick and mortars can survive, and they can be very successful businesses, and we see that today. I mean, we drive down our street, there's plenty of businesses that are still open. I mean, that's just a very small percentage that are closing down, and it's because they're weak in some area. You don't have to be weak, okay? So the first thing that you're going to have to do is you're going to have to look and see if you can afford a storefront. And the way you do that is by simply saying, okay, how stable is my business? Do I have a decent forecast of sales ahead of me? Okay? Have I been in business very long? Do I have that experience? And then asking the question, the very frank question, how can the storefront impact my revenue? Okay, you've got to say, okay, this location on these streets, how is this going to impact my business? Am I going to get the right target consumers driving by to see my business or stopping by? If your consumer isn't going to be driving by, then maybe that's not going to impact your business very much. And so we'll take a look at some of these spreadsheets here in a second on the next slide. But you're going to look at your costs associated with it as well. Okay, how much is my lease? What are the terms? How many years? Terms for leases are anywhere from 3 to 7 years on average. Okay, if you are not stable and you don't think that you're going to be able to increase revenue by having a storefront, then why in God's green earth would you want to enter into a lease for 7 years and put yourself out there, couple $1,000, $3,000 a month and you're out of business in 2, and then for 5 years you've got 5 times $3,000 a month. I don't even know, 36,000 times 5, whatever that is. It's a lot of money that you don't need to spend. So you have to make sure that you check these boxes off. Am I stable? Do I have the experience? Am I going in the right positive direction? And will this impact my revenue? Will this storefront? Then you're going to look at the cost of this again. You're going to look at your triple nets. Okay, the triple net is property taxes, building insurance, common area maintenance. That's another cost that you've got to consider when you're looking at the lease. And the one thing I'll say also about the lease is you want to make sure that you get the right terms, it's competitive for the area, that it has the right traffic visibility, signage is there. You want to look at all these kind of things. Build-out costs. A lot of tenants, there's a lot of landlords will provide tenant improvement allowances. So look at that. You're going to look at all those kind of things. Parking, and just remember, your personal guarantee is on this. So it's just not your company that's signing on the dotted line, the lease. It's you. You're signing on it. So it's your credit. Utilities and insurance you've got to add. And then don't forget that you're going to have to hire somebody to man the store, or you're going to have to put in the time to man the store. So don't forget to include those costs. Okay, now that you've decided, okay, perhaps I can make this work, how am I going to get there? I mean, yes, you could possibly absorb the cost, depending on what your profitability is right now, and, maybe, you're not going to increase revenue from the storefront necessarily, but maybe you can at least absorb the cost. So that's certainly something that you can look at. But if you can't absorb those costs, the one thing you're going to have to do is either lower your other expenses to compensate for that, which is a financial lever. We're not going to really talk about that very much today. But the other lever that you need to be able to pull is the marketing one. And many companies forget that they have to market. I don't understand why. They usually have zero in the budget for marketing, and marketing is critical to any business success. And I'm going to show you some slides that back that up. Okay, so here's just a sampling of how you would take a look at some of this, and this is an eye chart, so it's even hard to read on the handouts. But essentially, your current situation is the very top one. You have a profit of $2,000. Okay, so let's say you get a new storefront, and you've got these added expenses in there now. Okay, so you absorb it. You don't have any increase in revenue coming in from that storefront. That added expenses now brings you a loss of $1,000. Now, let's say another scenario is that you think that you're going to get a 20% lift from having a storefront. Well, the 20% lift will get you $12,000, and of course I have the cost of goods there. Your expenses are higher because you have the storefront, and you're still losing $200 a month or $200 for the year. So you have to make that up somewhere. The only way you're going to be able to make that up is through marketing, really, because you don't have any other place to go with it. You're only bringing in $12,000 from the drive-by. So you're going to have to find extra money to get that done. In order to break even, you actually have to find $500 of additional revenue to compensate for the loss or the added expenses that you have to bring it to a zero. And that's meaning that you make no profit. If you look at that new storefront with the yellow, the fourth one down, you can trim expenses too to help with some of that. You could trim, let's say, a couple $100 to get to that zero as well. But that's not where you want to be. Why would you get a storefront if you're not going to make more of a profit, or at least the same amount of profit? So that's where the last one comes in. You have to grow. And in this scenario, this person or this company would have to grow 98% revenue, almost double what he's doing now, in order to afford the storefront and still bring in the same profits. So before you decide to go into getting into a storefront, make sure you do some of these forecasts. And that's where we can come in and help you. You don't have to drive all the way over to Preston and Bush to see us. You can schedule a meeting with us over the phone if you need to. That's one-on-one counseling. And we're more than happy to do that if you can't get away. If you're at your business, you don't have the time, we know that. We understand that. We understand how busy you are. Oh, and one thing to keep in mind when you're doing this analysis, I put this little light bulb over to the side. It says how to find your projected revenue. Well, all you do is you really add your expenses, okay, other than the cost of goods, to whatever profit margin you want to make, and you divide that by your cost of goods, your gross margin. So all I did there is you just in the last scenario, for example, you add the 7,500 in added expenses, your profit of $2,000, that's 9,500, and you divide that by 40%, and that's what gets you the 23,750. So that's an easy way of looking at it. But you're going to have to do marketing. So that's why I say that the marketing plan is a must. You have a business plan when you first get into business. You have a marketing plan every year after. You should be doing a marketing plan every fall and have it ready to go January 1st. Okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to acquire customers? How am I going to acquire new customers? When you do think about your consumer, you need to think about them like this chart, or look, this slide. This is us. This is our lives. We are overwhelmed with communication, inundated with things going on. We're completely immersed in other things. And you are asking that person, just as someone would be asking you, hey, I need your attention. This is what I sell. Are you interested? It's hard to do that. Always constantly looking on your phone. You're dragging your kids to the next thing. You're running to this, running to that. You've got church and you've got all this other stuff going on. It's just overwhelming. And so that's why when I show this slide, I want you to realize that this is what you're up against today. And it's harder to market today than ever before. When I first got into advertising and marketing, we were taught that it took 3 impressions to induce action in a customer. And so that's how we would do our advertising on TV. How many people have sat down and watched TV and watched Progressive commercial come across the screen 20 times in a half an hour period? It seems like it's always on. There's always a Progressive commercial because they get it today. Impressions are harder and harder for people to, or at least attention to be given to that impression. So they realize that and they overwhelm you with that information so that you're assured of remembering it or trying to remember it anyway. And so that's why I say that you've got to cut through that clutter. You've got to be able to put forth multiple impressions, constantly reminding people that you exist. You're building equity. You're trying to get that out there. People don't remember you. One minute they see you, and the next minute they forget you. That's how it is. And these are tactics. Impressions are tactics. Okay? It could be a direct mail piece. It could be an email. It could be a business card handoff. It could be a personal selling appointment. Whatever it is, it's something that you're doing all the time. Okay? You're getting it out. You want to try, and this isn't possible for every impression, but you want to at least try to follow the ABCs when you're sending out an impression. You want to grab their attention. You want to reinforce the brand, and you want to make a connection every time you do something. And this is the rule of thumb for any kind of marketing that you do, including your websites. Okay? Try to follow the rule of the ABCs, and the rule of thirds is the other one that I don't have here, and I don't mention it in here, so you might want to write that one down. The rule of thirds is this. It's 1/3 white space, or just basic space. It can be colored if you wanted to put a color on it. 1/3 pictures and 1/3 copy or text. Okay? Even electrical engineers, or think of someone that's incredibly bright, they cannot take that in. Marketing is psychology. The brain does not function with a whole bunch of crap in front of them. They just can't read it. They will ignore it. So you have to be very succinct in what you're saying. Okay? And so that's why you follow the rule of thirds. You allow the brain to, they see an image. That makes a connection. they can read the most important information, and they can click into an FAQ and get more information, but you don't just vomit everything out there and with the intent of, okay, I want to be transparent, I want them to have all the information. Well, that might be true, but they can't see it. They won't read it. They won't know what it is. Even the most intelligent person won't be able to gather that together. So this is what I was talking about earlier, where it was very simple, and today is very hard, and it is very true to market. You have to continue to be out there. You have to have these impressions out there. So the first thing that you want to do in your marketing strategy is understand your target consumer. Okay, that's first and foremost, because now knowing that you're going to have to do a bunch of impressions, that's costly, very costly. Marketing is costly. By narrowing the focus, by having the target consumer, you are narrowing your focus. You're narrowing your marketing tactics. You know, these companies that provide products for the masses, they spend an enormous amount of money because they have to hit them everywhere. They don't even know who they are, really. For you, hopefully, you will have a target consumer, and you create this thing where it's called now a persona. Let's see if I may have had these backwards, these slides. Right here. It's called a persona. You basically put a picture of who your target consumer is and everything about them, their demographics, what do they do, how many are there, what gender are they, what are their age ranges. That allows you to target your tactics that you provide. Okay. So once you understand your consumer, then you're going to go into the trends. Okay, what are the trends that are going out there? You know, if BlackBerry was smart, they would have probably closed down sooner, because the trend was to be able to look at your internet page while you're on your phone, and BlackBerry didn't provide any of that early on. Okay, they had their great email, but it was not. They should have been really ahead of the game when it came to providing some sort of a electronic device that would be able to get you to the internet and look at a web page. But you're going to look at all these trends. What are your consumers doing? If you're into kids' clothing or kids' jewelry, well, is that really what the kids are into these days? Is that something that they're interested in? Well, if it isn't, then you're behind already, and you need to adjust what you have to offer them. Otherwise, you're not going to appeal to them, and you're not going to sell anything to them. Next is SWOT analysis. You've got to understand your competitors. You've got to understand your own strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities and threats. Okay? You do that analysis, and you do it on a couple, 3 top competitors. You don't have to do it with 50 different ones, but you need to understand the field that you're playing in and who's playing there. Then, we're getting back to this slide. I think I screwed up. I should have probably eliminated that first one. But anyway, the analysis of the target consumer we talked about already. But you're just going to get an understanding of who they are, where they are, how they buy, that sort of thing. You do that persona. And then you're going to get into the customer segmentation. Okay, you're going to categorize these customers into potential customers that you've already contacted, perhaps, maybe customers that you've already done business with. Whatever it is, you're going to segment those customers, because each one of those is going to kind of require some kind of communication. Okay, you're going to communicate differently with a potential consumer than you would with an already customer. So try to do that segmentation. And then you're going to create your marketing tactics around that. You're going to decide, okay, well, maybe I do emails to this segment of these customers, and I do this once a week or every other week, whatever it is. Maybe I do in February a direct mail piece, a real postcard with just, what my company does and whatever it is. But you're basically creating your calendar for the year. And then you're going to share and commit. If you have employees, I would give them that strategy before you roll it out. They will give you some frank feedback, They'll let you know if it's if they think it's going to work or not. You may not follow their advice, but you're the owner of the business and you get to do what you want to do. But if you do, once you do have this marketing plan, then spread the enthusiasm that you're going to get all these great customers and things are going to be great. One of the things you need to keep in mind is sometimes marketing doesn't work, you think, because it's not bringing in a sale. But that's not the case. Most of the time, I worked at some of the biggest companies in the world. We had the greatest teams working on these marketing tactics. And I'm going to tell you what, the response rate for some of the things that we did, 0.5% response on a highly targeted mailing with a great premium, that's what you're up against. I try to tell clients, think of it as a tax. Okay, most of the time you're building equity. I argue with a lot of senior managers at Abbott about this, and that was because they always wanted to see results. They always wanted to see sales. You're not going to see sales with every marketing tactic that you do. You're just reminding them that you exist. If it takes 18 impressions, let's say that that's true for the moment, okay? Progressive is following it. They don't expect to get a sale every time that they put out a commercial. It takes them 18 to get the commercial. So 17 of them are not going to have any responses. And that's what you're up against. You are reminding, you're letting them know that you exist out there. So the first mistake a lot of entrepreneurs do is they think automatically that one tactic, the sunshine or the bolt or the smiley face, is right before a consumer purchases. But we have no idea what this purchase cycle looks like. And so they stop advertising, they stop marketing, they stop doing whatever it is. Oh, marketing doesn't work, I'm not going to do it. Well, your sales will eventually dry up. It's just exactly what happens. So the solution is that you've got to create a strategy that has communication all year round, because you don't know the buying cycle. You don't know when they're going to buy. So you have to keep reminding. Otherwise, your competitors are going to get in there before you do and make that impression. Okay? That last bullet point is the most important. Just act like it's a tax. Say, I'm going to take some money out, I'm going to put it into a marketing plan, I'm going to do these tactics, and that's just it. And see where it takes you. There is no magic bullet. Even the biggest companies test. We constantly test. Here's some of the acquisition and retention strategy or tactics that a lot of big companies use. 254 retail professionals participated in this study. You can see the email is the number one for both acquisition and retention. Oh, and by the way, it can be free too. So a lot of times on MailChimp and what's the other one that's a big one? Constant Contact. It's free to some degree. They start charging. I think it's when you're at a certain volume, but I think when you're small, it's free. Here's some of the spending plans. I don't want to get too much into this. And how much time do I have? 2 minutes. Okay. So here's some of the spending plans by some of these 295 business leaders. They decided that they're going to put a lot of money into email. Of course, social media a couple years back and even now is still big. But don't forget, social media is only to be used if it is for your target market. If you're a plumber and you're in the plumbing business, why on God's great earth would you spend money in Snapchat or some of these other social media networks? Even LinkedIn to some degree wouldn't work for them. I would not recommend social media to a plumber necessarily. Now it could be that you could make an argument that Facebook might be a place, because a lot of times the decision maker could be a female who might be on LinkedIn or on Facebook. But it's a stretch. I think there are other marketing tactics that will work better for that gentleman or that lady that might be in plumbing. So you've got to look at it. It has to apply to your target. Do not do social media if it doesn't make sense. It's a tactic like anything else, and it's very time consuming, by the way. Okay, here's some of the marketing budgets. This is where a lot of companies spend their monies. Traditional marketing, that's your normal direct mail and whatever, and then you have the online marketing there. You can read that. Here's the marketing budget. So general rule of thumb, 5 to 7% of gross sales. So whatever your projected gross sales are, you should be spending marketing money in that. Startups, higher. If you're starting up, if you're moving from the garage to a storefront, then you need to be spending at least 10% of your revenues in marketing. I know it seems like a lot, but take a look at this next slide. This was a survey done by a bunch of different places, all very legitimate survey takers, and you can see right there on the second bullet, B2B, B2C, it doesn't matter, it's all over 10%. These are successful companies. This isn't just Dell, and even if it was, they spend a percentage of their revenues in marketing. You are spending a percentage of your revenues in marketing, okay? Don't spend 2%, don't spend 0, spend 10%. And marketing works, okay? Lots of examples here of companies that had market share, the leaders in market share, and were taken down. Lots of them. Okay, are there any questions? Anybody have any general questions before we turn it over to Chuck? Yes, ma'am.
I wonder about email versus social media. Are people still paying, or are we getting too much email and blocking?
No, I don't think so. I think the general understanding is that people can always erase emails. You know, they don't have to, or they can unsubscribe to them if they want. So by having that option, it gives them power. So they don't seem to want, like, for example, I may be a typical consumer. So I get hundreds of emails a day from companies that I did business one time or 2 times or whatever. I will at least look at the subject line to see if it's worth my while, and then I'll move on. For social media, if it makes sense, if it's in if your target is really into this social media, whatever it is, if it's LinkedIn is an awesome place to be if you're a B2B person. Realtor, whatever it is, you're making connections out there, and it's important, I believe. And I think there's a strategy that you can employ that's, it can be a little time consuming, but it can make you out to be an expert. You can stay in front of the exact person that you want as a customer. Facebook has got some great demographic stuff inside so that you can target your market. Facebook was once very friendly. It's becoming less friendly as time progresses because more and more people are using it and they need more and more money. So you have to look at each tactic, but the stats show that email does work both in acquisition and retention. So, and since it's free, as long as you can get a good email address and send them out periodic emails. Now you don't want to overwhelm them every hour of every day, but if it's, you know, one on Monday and maybe one on Wednesday or one on Friday, you know, and you have something legitimate to say in it, not just, okay, this is me, but maybe it's an article. There's a strategy to email as well, just like it is in LinkedIn. But I guess we're going to hold the questions until the end after Chuck. Is that what you want to do? How do you want to do it?
Yeah, we do one more quick question, and then if you want to write down your questions, and we can hit the end.
If it's long, we can chat after.
Okay.
So for startup businesses who have not yet generated that revenue or anything like that, and they're working on, let's say, a business loan, and they've got, I mean, let's just, for the sake of speaking, let's just say they've got $100,000 to get this up and going. How do you then also take 10% of that 100,000 for marketing for that first year?
Oh yeah.
And then just reevaluate it as you start making revenue, you revisit that and...
Yeah, you're going to dump a lot into marketing the first year. You should. A lot of people don't, and a lot of people struggle. The reality of it is, and Chuck can validate this as well, is generally clients don't, or businesses don't make money until the 3rd year.
Right.
That's the magic year, it seems like, on average. First 2 years, it's a struggle to even break even. So the more that you can put into marketing up front to get customers to start, you know, to get that traffic flowing, even if it's online or offline, it doesn't really matter. You're generating traffic. To get that traffic moving, to get some qualified leads in the door, that's what you have to do. Marketing is so essentially important to your business, especially early on, more so than any other time, because you don't have any repeat purchases. So everything is expensive. It gets them to get them there. So yeah, you really need to be spending a lot of money in marketing the first year. Okay, well, I guess we'll talk. Any other questions? Just save them, and then we'll talk afterwards. Turn it over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it.
Do a quick introduction. Let's give Steve a round of applause. Couple of housekeeping things. We still have a lot of food, so help me with that, if you will. And then ladies' restroom are on my right to your left, men's restroom on my left to your right. Just back out through here, so if you needed to take a quick break. One thing I did want to add to that, Steve did a great job, I appreciate it, is just the wealth of information. And I think a lot of folks that are trying to figure out where to start, that's essentially answering tons of those questions that, how do I even get started? Well, you have to understand it's a reality. It's kind of like reality therapy. I felt like we went through, okay, we've got this great idea. What is it really taking? When you get into the nuts and bolts of it, there are some very key things that you need to do to be successful. One commitment that the City of Fate has towards its small businesses is we are committed to your success. So I just want to give you a case example of 2 new businesses that came to our downtown. They started and they were existing. They came out of basically their homes. Along came Tamale and then the Four Checks Bakery. They may have had a small following on their social media. They're very geographic centered. I mean, the folks that they're serving, the demographic that they're serving is relatively, in this area. So when we talk about social media marketing and things like that, Facebook has some really interesting tools, as do some of these other, Google ads and things like that, where you can get very geographically centered marketing so that you're hitting your target audience. What the City of Fate has done in supporting our small businesses is if they have like a promotion going on, or for example, this morning, we shared a post about Along Came Tamale when they were featured in D Magazine as one of the tastiest tamales in all of Dallas-Fort Worth. So our market reach, right, we have like 3,700 followers, and then that gets shared, it kind of goes viral. So the reach that we're able to also help provide to our businesses is a huge benefit, and it comes at no cost to you. So when you think at cost per impression, so you're paying to get people to look at your brand. We're providing organic or natural or viral traffic to your brand through the city's marketing and program and the access that we have to that. So that's just one example of the way that the City of Fate is partnering with our small businesses to help with that marketing piece in the startup phase, right? And that, that in my opinion is worth thousands of dollars in free marketing that the city is helping provide to those communities. So thank you, Steve. And right now you're thinking, oh man, I've got all the tools. I'm ready to go get some money so I can start my business, right? That's exactly right. So that's what Chuck is going to talk a little bit about. I want to just introduce him quickly. He's the lending manager, and he's responsible for directing, planning, and coordinating financial and other administrative and support services for the East Texas Regional Development Company, ETRDC. So they basically do small business loan programs, and they are the community loan center for consumer microloan program. And he has served the ETRDC and CLC boards in ensuring compliance with state and federal regulations and policies. So it's amazing that the government has provided these opportunities for small businesses, whether it be through low interest loans or certain backings, and as kind of a and Chuck's going to go into these different 504 programs. So he's going to talk specifically, okay, well, how do I get access to that capital? And now that I have an idea, I have a storefront, I want to make this happen. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Chuck, and we got a few more minutes after his presentation for Q&A. Stick around, network, this is what this is about, and then also eat all this food, okay? Help me with that as well. So, Chuck.
Thank you. Thank you, Justin. I appreciate your time and listening to me chat. I do have a presentation. It does not include the wealth of information provided to you in your first session there. I use it more as a guidepost. I like to talk to my audience, get an idea of what it is you're trying to accomplish, and see if we can help you develop that roadmap. So again, my name is Chuck Vanderbilt. I'm the Regional Lending Manager for the East Texas Regional Development Company. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you all the information you need to know first, and then we'll get into it really. So if afterwards you want to reach me, you can go to etrdc.com to visit our website. It'll tell you about all of our loan programs, our staff, what we're here to do. If you want to reach me by phone, it's 903-218-6411. So the East Texas Regional Development Company is a certified development company with the United States Small Business Administration. if you want to do an SBA 504 loan, you have to go through an office like mine. There used to be over 200 offices throughout the country. That number, like many of your small banks, are dwindling. They're getting eaten up by larger CDCs, that kind of a thing. But I manage a small CDC in East Texas. I'm housed in Kilgore, if you're familiar with that direction. But I'm housed within the East Texas Council of Governments. So I'm part of a larger government entity that serves 14 counties in East Texas. But under my umbrella, with these loan programs, specifically the SBA 504, I go all over the state of Texas to do the SBA 504. So that's just a little bit about me, and I'm going to use this really as a guide as we just kind of discuss some of these topics here. But again, let's just say hypothetically, you've got your idea, you've met with Steve. Steve has vetted it, you know, he's pointed out all the holes that could be in your plan, he's helped you tweak it, and he says, okay, you know what? I think you're ready. You're ready for that storefront. And now it's time to come see an office like myself if you don't go commercial loan, that kind of thing. So I want to talk about, you know, what my office, what other lenders need to have, what they want to see. Whether you go through my office, a bank, or another SBA, USDA loan program, there's really a set of information that if you got the first time you go through, and again, Steve knows this, he works with lenders across all over types, nonprofits, for-profits, CDCs. He's got an idea of what each one of these lenders is looking for. So I really recommend meeting with Steve or someone at Collin SBDC before you ever sit down with the lender. What typically happens? Most people don't go see Steve, they go straight to the lender, and the lender says, I need you to get all this stuff together, and then it looks like you didn't have anything together to begin with, which is kind of a bad first impression, right? So go see Steve first before you come see me or some other type of lender if you need help getting this type of stuff put together. So we'll go from there. So why should you invest in a storefront to begin with? Why not just stay in the garage? Why not stay home? There's a couple of reasons I've got them outlined here. Again, obviously you got to think about professionalism, right? I know small businesses, especially in the food industry, where you've got somebody that's working out of their house, and you've got people pulling up, picking up stuff, and then people call the police. I don't know what they're selling out of that house, but I see cars pulling up all day and leaving with this little white box. And this is not, it's anecdotal, but this is real. I've had a client had the police call on her multiple times because they thought she was running drugs out of her house. She was baking cookies, but that's what they thought. So there's that level of professionalism, right? That you have a storefront, you have something that someone can walk into, whether that's, you know, you've got uniformed, everybody's got the shirt on, that kind of thing. But and we'll talk more about that experience a little bit later, because this same story, this same lady, she's amazing. She is crushing it in the cookie business, and I'll explain how. So professionalism, obviously advertising. So if you've got a storefront, you've got signage, that's advertising all day long. I was a small business owner in Longview, Texas. I put my storefront on one of the busiest thoroughfares. I had a very small budget when I started. I spent $5,000 on a lit sign. It was worth it. It was right there. Everybody knew where I was located. Everybody could see it at night. It was on every single night, glowing as bright as it could. So that it is a level of advertising. Depending on your type of business, you've got window dressings, things of that nature that you can use. Please rotate them out at least quarterly. Change them up. Give somebody something different to look at the next time they come visit you. So think about that. Obviously, there's a sense of community, especially if you're a downtown business. Downtown businesses stick together like crazy because they know they're all in the same struggle. You know, one restaurant doesn't care that there's another restaurant right there. They're working together, not against each other. They're really trying to drive traffic to downtown, period, because eventually those people are going to go and support all those businesses in some form. Another reason is code compliance. You can talk about those people that are baking in their house. My anecdotal story, she received 3 tickets from the city of Longview. She didn't really mind, it was worth it. She was making the money, she was paying the ticket, right? But it got to a point where it's like, I'm gonna have to get to a storefront somehow, but we'll continue on. So code compliance is a big deal, making sure, and what I recommend before you pick your spot, before you're really moving, talk to this man here. Before you start constructing, buying, remodeling, make sure what you're doing is gonna be okay with the city of Fate. Because I see a lot of people waste time and money because they don't see him first, they do it wrong, and then they have to go back and pay a fine and then fix it, right? See him first. I'll leave it at that. But the big thing that people really point about the SBA 504, and it's the same in personal life or business. If you're a renter, you're giving that money to your landlord. If you're a homeowner, you're building equity. Same thing on the business side. That's what this is really, really about. This is long-term wealth for you and your business. It's developing an asset and building that equity that allows you then to do more because you've built that equity as a business. Banks are going to let you borrow more, they're going to let you do more because you've built that equity over time. So that's something to consider. Any questions on what I've got up here? Pretty straightforward. But it's why I think, some of the key reasons I think a storefront is worth it for some businesses. After you meet with Steve and he says it's worth it for your business. Reasons to not invest in a storefront. I have a 2-year-old. I've seen Boss Baby 57 times in the past month. I'm tired of it. But I hear it all the time. So full disclosure, before I became the regional lending manager, I was an SBDC advisor for Longview, Texas. Steve, how often do you hear these?
Pretty often, actually.
Pretty often, right? Would you consider any of those a good reason to start a business?
No.
Start a business, much less go into owning a storefront, right? But we hear it day in. I'm tired of my boss. I could do this better. I'm such, you know what? My husband says, I make the best daggone lasagna. I'm going to open an Italian restaurant. Just because you cook well doesn't mean you know what it takes to run a restaurant. It's just, these are reasons we hear all the time, but they're not the right reasons to make this type of a long-term investment in your business and your future for you and your family. My opinion. So you decide, you've got the plan with Steve, you say, okay, I know why I shouldn't. I'm gonna do it, I'm ready to do it. What do you need to start thinking about as you talk with Justin and you start going around town and trying to decide where you're going to either purchase or construct your new place of business? Some of the things to consider, obviously, neighborhood. Is signage available to begin with? If it is, what kind? In my business, I leased my office. There were certain requirements for our signage. Make sure you know what that kind of stuff is before you, again, spend money on signage, have it installed, and they have to take it down and fix it. So think about doing that kind of thing. We talked about window displays. Think about your surrounding businesses. You know, depending on if you're doing, again, children's clothing, that kind of thing, are you going to locate yourself in a part of town where there's some traffic for moms and kids and that kind of thing? Or if you put yourself somewhere where they tend to not want to go, you're going to struggle. So you really have to look at your surroundings. You know, I live in Longview, Texas, about 80,000 people, very small downtown, has about 2 streets, and everyone complains about parking. And anybody who lives in a big city would laugh because they would say, well, you have to walk from the end of that building to the end of the building over here, and I don't want to do that. I want to park right in front of it. That's the kind of complaints that happen in Longview, whereas here, I think, you know, again, you've got the opportunity to move your business into a master planned community that's thinking these things out for you and can help guide you where you might go to best fit your business. So really, meet with Steve, meet with Justin, know what you're doing before you pull the trigger on anything. And again, code compliance, I say it because I saw it all the time. You know, as an advisor, you would talk to somebody, and just because you tell them what they should do doesn't mean they're going to do it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I think of one person specifically. She wanted to open a hair salon. Pretty common, those came in all the time. She took out a lease, no big deal. I told her, well, let's hold on, let's make a plan. The very next week, she was tearing down walls. The very next week, she was shut down. If you have your assets, like Steve, like Justin, like myself, utilize them. We're not charging you anything. It's a wealth of knowledge. I can't stress it enough. Again, full disclosure, I used to be employed by this policy. So you've met with Steve, you think you're ready. You're ready to schedule an appointment with my office or another lender. What do you need to bring? This is big. Your business plan, okay? Now, there's some people that will do a business plan that is 60 pages, thesis about their life and everything. I see business plans that get funded that are 1 page long. There are certain fundings, there's an SBA 7A Express. You have to answer 20 questions, that's it. That's your business plan, right? That's the other. Know what type of capital it is you're trying to get and try to understand what boxes they have to check off. Make sure you help them check off those boxes. It'll help you get funded quicker, and I think that's a big deal. So your business plan, it doesn't have to be some big document, but there needs to be a plan. It needs to address year 1, year 3, year 5, and you should revisit it. And then you should stack it with a marketing plan, as Steve suggested. How are you going to achieve those customers to help you execute that plan from year 1 to 3 to 5, right? So, depending if you're a startup, if you're an existing business, it's a little bit different. If you go to a commercial bank and you are a startup, I'm going to say almost 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get funding. If you are a startup business, they're really not, they want to see historical trends, right? In the SBA's eyes, you're a startup, even if you're done with year 1. If you're in year 2, they still consider you a startup. Not until you've completed 2 years of business do you now become not a startup in the SBA's eyes. So, if you're in the startup phase, keep meticulous receipts, notes, things that. If you don't have an accountant, please get an accountant. Please. I say it kind of jokingly, but again, you're talking to people that see people mess up day in, day out, and have to come to us to fix it. It'll cost you some money. Is it worth the peace of mind every day to know that you're okay and in good standing with the United States government? I kind of think so. Make sure you're doing it right. I think it's worth it. In my business, I think I paid about $700 a year for my account. Well worth the money. So you've got your business plan with the financial projections. This is how you want to break it down. They're going to require at least 2 years of financial projections. Year 1, it needs to be broken down by month. Year 2 can be annualized, typically. But year 1, they're going to want it broken down by month, showing the income and showing your expenses, an entire cash flow for your business. If you go, man, Chuck, I don't know how to do financial projections, Steve will help you do it for free. Simple as that. And I really do, even if you go, you know what, that's no problem. I can crank that out in a day. I would still let Steve look at it. Because they're the ones that have market data to say, you know what, that is in line with the trend. Or to say, I don't think you're quite on the mark and maybe we need to adjust some numbers. So even if you find yourself, yes, I'm competent to do this, to me it is invaluable to have someone that's not family, friend, business partner, to have that opinion, right? Someone that's from the outside that can look at your situation objectively and help you reach where you're trying to go. That's not invested personally. So that, I really do think it's a valuable office. So with the business plan, you've got your financial projections. You'll need personal tax returns, 3 years worth. The past 3 years, they're going to want your tax returns. Of everyone involved in your business that owns 20% or more. This is where I see businesses not get funding. Because say you got a team of 5, 4 of them have great personal credit, but one does not, and he or she owns more than 20%. It can kill a deal. You need to know that going in before you even structure your business, right? So think about that. 20% or more is the cutoff. If a partner in your business has 20 or more, they're going to run credit. They're going to do personal background checks. So they're looking for felons. They're looking for citizens, whether or not you're a citizen, veterans, things of that nature. So just know that going in. And if you're an existing business, they're going to want at least 2 to 3 years of your business tax returns as well. Any questions up to that point?
On the debt one where you said they want your debt, is that a personal debt or if you're an existing business, then business debt?
So, both. They're really going to look at both. What we're expressing here is your existing business debt, but if you're a startup, they're going to look at your personal debt. And even if you're an existing business, they're going to look at your personal financial information, right? They're going to make you outline all your assets, all your liabilities. They're going to look at that and take that with your credit score to help them in their underwriting process. It's what I do. It's what every lender is going to do. And if you please email me anything, I will send you, I don't even know what a personal information sheet looks like with the SBA. I'll send it to you so you know ahead of time what that looks like. What's the personal history? There's just basic SBA documents. You can go to sba.gov. They're all there, so you can get an idea of what it takes to really get done through the SBA. And there's that notion that it's slow and it's kind of a pain sometimes, and it's not untrue, I think, in history, but they've modernized. It's gotten a lot quicker. My office, I've done a 504 loan, which typically takes about 60 days from beginning to end. I've done about 40. So you need to know, if I need cash quick, generally government lending is not going to be your solution. Do I want cash that's below market in the interest rate? Do I want it to be fixed for the life of the loan? Do I want to be able to pay over more years than a traditional bank? Those are the reasons why you want to go to the SBA, right? It's going to make it a little bit more profitable for you in the long run, and I'll go into that some more. But yes, on the schedule of current debt, they're looking at your mortgage, your vehicles, your credit cards. I mean, the SBA is going to look and want to account for every dime. That's the way they are. And then, of course, depending on your audience, they're going to ask for more. So it just really kind of depends on, I would say, but these are the key ones that get the ball rolling for you. And a bank can take this and quickly determine whether or not they're going to finance you or not. They may not tell you that. They may take 2 weeks before they tell you. But with this information, you can figure it out pretty quickly. It's just the way it is. So specifically on the 504, 2 minutes, holy cow. Okay, so the SBA 504 is an SBA loan program designed for commercial real estate. So if you are looking to purchase, construct, remodel, expand commercial real estate, this is the loan program that I would recommend to you for several reasons. So again, it's designed for commercial real estate acquisition, construction, remodeling. You can borrow up to really $5.5 million if you want. Now that is not total project cost. That is the SBA's portion of your project cost. So your total project cost can really be like $15 million, right? I do big hotels all the way down to the mom and pop. So it can be a big project. It offers fixed interest rate. Right now, probably about 5.5%. Commercials, probably about 7.5%, 8%, 9%, to give you an idea. This is new to 2018. Of course, we're heading into 2019. In 2017, it capped out at 20 years. You can now take out a term of up to 25 years if you want, which helps with cash flow because obviously that lowers your monthly payments. which allows you to reach profitability quicker or increase that profitability month to month. This is a big one that a lot of people don't realize. There's going to be an equity injection requirement on you no matter what if you're doing a small business loan. Are you aware of any small business loans that finance 100%? Not a one.
Minimum is 10%.
Minimum. So if you got to be thinking, I need $100,000, you better have 10 grand sitting in that checking account. They don't, you don't have to spend it, but they want you to be financially invested in your business as well, right? That helps them mitigate risk. So 10 to 20%, and this also involves a third-party lender, which is a fancy word for saying a bank. So this is not, again, this is a little bit more complicated than your traditional loan. I don't know how I'm going to do this in 2 minutes, or the minute I have left. But I want to show you the typical structure. So this is a typical structure of an SBA 504. All right? You've got the conventional bank, which is going to be in a first lien position, which is always going to do 50% of the project. And it will actually be a separate note on the bank's terms, right? Then, up to 40% of it is financed through the SBA. And that 40% of it is under those terms that I outlined to you that are fixed interest rate, 25 years, that kind of thing. And really, this program is intended to benefit the bank and you. It gets you the lower equity injection, the better terms, and it only exposes the bank to 50% of the risk. Therefore, they're more willing to lend those dollars. So it really is a program intended to benefit both sides and to get money into your hands. So that's traditional. Now there's some variances because it can be 10 to 20%, right? So the SBA would do 40 or maybe 30% based on a couple of factors, and I want you to know this. It's 10% if you are an existing business, so you're not a startup, and you're constructing, remodeling, moving into a building that can be easily converted to another business should you go out of business. So, if you are a startup, or if it's a special purpose building, so typical ones are going to be hotels, gas stations, assisted living facilities, bowling alleys, laundry cleaners, oil change places, something that if it closes, it can't be easily changed to something else. They're going to tack on 5% equity requirement. So if you're a startup and you're doing special purpose, something like that, that's how you get to 20. Any questions on that right there? Pretty straightforward. If I do this thing here. So now what? You know, kind of, so let me take a step back. That is specific to the SBA 504 loan program. If you are not purchasing your commercial real estate, if you're going to lease, it's not the program for you. That's not to say there's not a program for you. I would send you to Steve, and Steve would probably plug you into the SBA 7A loan program, which can be used for a variety of things, but it maxes out, I think, $375. I think it's $375,000 is your max through an SBA 7A. So if you're doing a real big project, you have to go 504. But I would say even if you're not doing, it's under $375,000, I would still consider the 504 because it will give you the best terms to purchase, construct, whatever you need to do the real estate, and then stack a 7A on top for the working capital, inventory, that kind of thing. With the SBA, you can borrow up to $5 million through any of their loan programs.
As long as you qualify.
As long as you qualify. So I say all that to say, my office is very niche. Got 3 loan programs. The 504 is the one that I could do here in Fate today if you guys were wanting to do something. But if you go through, there are more than just my option. There's the 7A. There's more than just SBA. That's really where Steve comes into play because he's plugged into your lenders in this area. He's plugged into the business community in this area, and he can at least refer you, point you in the right direction to meet the funding need that you need to get started or to grow, whatever you're trying to achieve. Again, it's just a valuable resource, to assess wherever you are at this time, where you're trying to go, and help you develop that roadmap at no cost to you. While you're still out there going to work, living your life, you've got a business plan being made, you've got financial projections. I can't sell it enough. Thank you guys. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I work all through the state trying to put money in your hands. So if I can, let me know.
Thanks, Justin. Let's give them all a round of applause. For the purposes of the recording, we'll take the next 5 minutes for Q&A. We'll stop recording, but please feel free to stick around if you have some specific questions. These gentlemen here are here to assist. But again, one last point that I want to make. So we've talked a little bit about traditional financing. We've talked a little bit about the SBA financing. There are certain things that a city can do, and cities have economic development corporations who can also be a bank to you for lending purposes, economic incentives, and things like that. So if you have any questions about that, I'd be the guy to talk to specifically here for the city of Fayette. So again, just wanted to say thank you so much for coming out. We appreciate what you do. Again, small business is the backbone of our country. I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, a grandmother who sold candies on the beaches over in California, my folks owning an antique store, myself being a small business owner. So thank you again. Love and appreciate everything that you guys do. And we'll turn over the time for y'all if you have any questions.
That'd be a good job, right?
Everything that they
nailed
ever
it.
wanted to know. I've never seen that before. Yes,
I
Dina.
have a question. So, like, if we go to set up an appointment with you, and we tell you, because I think that some of the direction is going to be a little bit different for product services versus service industry. You set us up with somebody specific that's maybe their expertise is one or the other.
Well, we have general business, we have 2 advisors in our center. We're down a couple of advisors. They left earlier this year. But both advisors were small business owners. Both of us are small business owners, or were small business owners. So we have general business knowledge. When it gets into specific business, what we do is we tend to rely on the things that are in our database. So we have what's called BizMiner, for example. BizMiner is a database that's filled with P&Ls for like businesses in geographies all over the country. So what we would do in the case of whatever your service is, if it's not incredibly unique, we would probably pull those like business P&Ls for you, and then we would compare that to your forecast to see if you're if you're going in the right direction. That's the only way that we would know what a typical business runs for profits, revenues, that sort of thing for a given geography. But we also can rely on, and this is a great resource for anyone that's starting a business, would be bplans.com. I would highly recommend you go there because they write business plans correctly, and they're free to you. They're actually, you can copy and paste them directly into a Word document and recreate the financials in Excel without much effort at all. And I advise most of my clients to do that because there's like 500 or 600 out there, and you're likely to find something that's very similar. They contain everything that you need for a business plan. You don't have to guess what I should include in this. And that's what we find most often is when you follow the SBA template or the SBDC template, I don't even go there anymore because it's just stupid. You don't know what to include in that section. So you end up rewriting the same thing in 3 different sections, and it makes you seem like you don't know what you're doing. So the best way is to go out there to bplans.com, find your right business plan, copy it completely, including all the financials, and then rewrite it from there. Rewrite yours on top of theirs, just rewrite how yours get the financials from us, plug those in, make sure it looks right, because the one thing that the banks do of anything else in a business plan is they look at those financial projections. That's the most important part of it. And if they're off, that's a red flag. Most businesses, most entrepreneurs think that they're going to make this a huge profit first year. That is not the case. We usually try to push entrepreneurs of having at least a slight loss. Okay, you've got to, there's reality. You don't have the customers, you don't have the traffic yet. So you're not going to operate like an average business out there. You're going to be below average for a couple of years. break even year 3, okay, that's reality. Banks see that, banks understand that. What they don't want to see is this incredible profit first year. I'm going to make $1 million. That's an instant red flag. You don't know what you're doing.
I would like to add to that. So a lot of times I saw clients come in where we would work weeks, months, business plan, everything's put together. They go to the bank, they're so excited, they put all this work, they give it to the bank, they open up the business plan, they skip everything and go straight to the numbers.
Yeah.
They don't necessarily care about the narrative, they care about the numbers. They may go back and look at the narrative after, they may never look at the narrative ever, not ever, but they've got to check the box that it's there.
Yeah, and you want to make sure it's well written, and that's why I say that those bplans.com business plans are all really well written. They've all been vetted. They're really well done. I can't say enough about them. You can't find anything out on the internet even remotely close. We can't provide enough guidance to get you there. It's already made for you right in front of you. You just have to pull it down and rewrite it. That's it.
And if you want to put a monetary value on his office real quick, real easy to say, yeah, I'm going to make this appointment, that was brought up, the IBIS World reports. They're industry reports for just about every industry you can think of. If you try to get it on your own, it's $1,000 per report. If you go to see that information, it costs you nothing. I will tell you who does have access to those reports. Lenders. So if they're going to give you a loan and that you're in an industry they're not familiar, they'll pull the IBIS World report. Well, it would be really helpful if you had that report too and knew exactly what they knew, and it even provides questions for bankers to ask you. Imagine if you knew what the question was before they asked you. Call him.
Well, and
there's the number.
It adds meat to your business plan too, and also you want to cite some of those trends and stuff that they have in this IBIS World report. That's what it is. It's really trends. It's the health of the segment, whatever segment you're in. It has a bunch of charts. It's a pretty long report, but it's great meat to add to the back of a business plan and to cite in your marketing strategy within your business plan. It makes it seem like you've done your homework, that you understand your playing field, what's going on. It's part of that whole SWOT analysis, market strategy kind of thing. You got to understand the segment in which you're in.
I mean, it's very much in the tune of, so everything, I didn't have any quotes, stats or anything. Everything I told you was just what I told you. You could believe me or you could not believe me. Bankers are looking at it the same way. Just because you say this is what's going to happen, that doesn't mean anything. They want information. They want data from third parties that are not associated with you, that are objective pieces of information that they can say, okay, I can see how they believe they're going to do this because there's hard facts that back up that belief. That's what they're really looking for. And if you don't have it, if it's all, this is what I think.
It's just like writing a research paper in high school.
Right.
Okay, or in college. You always have to cite your references to provide, some sort of substance to your paper. It's not just conjecture. This is from research. Well, it's the same with them. They're looking at, your business plan is essentially a term paper on what you're going to do. And do I have the facts right? Am I looking at this objectively enough? Are my projections in line with the industry projections? If the industry is going down and you're projecting this incredible profit, then if you don't explain it in your business plan, then they're going to discount it. They won't look at it. They may not give you the loan.
We'll have time for more questions, but for the purposes of the recording, we're going to go ahead and end there, but please stay. So we're going to go ahead and end the recording there. So that kind of officially concludes this workshop, but please stick around, ask as many questions as you'd like, and also take some food with you, okay? So thank you.
Have you ever